Shadowlands being an expansion about the afterlife, there is sure to be a touch on the more spooky side. However, postponed to no longer be right before Halloween, we decided we would speak about the new most spookiest zone coming to WoW, in the Shadowlands. Maldraxes is the most powerful of the Shadowlands realms and acts as their main military force against possible intruders. Because of this, they accept a fair few people ranging from everything between not good enough for Bastion and not bad enough for Revendreth. The only thing they really look out specifically for is willpower, and the very zone itself tests that willpower. The zone itself rots to the very core. This realm is the origin of all things undeath and necromancy, and the scourge we all know so well. This is the origin, and the very land itself oozes of carrion. So much so you can find warts coming from the ground, acting as gathering nodes for skinners. Maldraxes divides itself into multiple houses, one of 5 houses, each with their own specialty to assist in the wars. When we the players arrive, 2 of them have already been destroyed. Between where those houses stand, you can commonly find animals wandering the land, a mix of twisted bones, rotted, mutilated flesh, and a natural sinew stitching holding them all together. To the north, a land of spores, massive spider-like swellings of fungus towering above everything, eventually growing large enough to move on their own and lumbering through the lands, attacking anything they come into contact with, adding to their biomass. First, we start with the House of Plagues, the most devastated of the 2 destroyed houses. On Azeroth, we have seen the devastation of the plague, but here in the House of Plagues, we see the next level of horrors. It was once the origin of the weapons used by both Sylvanas and the Scourge, but now it lays in ruins. Its people vaporize in an instant in a freak explosion, leaving nothing but maddening amalgamations of slime and bones, most left mindless and others left insane by the many different souls now melded together into bigger beings. Some even melded together a few hundred into gargantuan beasts of pure destruction. Once the house charged with building advanced weaponry to assist Maldraxes in defending the realms of death, now left in literal shambles of agonizing horror, a literal ocean of plague. Next is the House of Constructs, once designated to create bodies for souls who had lost their natural forms, now creates the most horrifying creation. Beasts with broken bodies and painful appendages, they now capture and torture anyone they deem unworthy, be it Maldraxian or those from other realms. Still alive, they toss them into the flesh pits to await. Then, like building blocks, they pick and choose body parts, limbs, eyes, organs, whatever are needed, and are taken from the barely living and then used for their creations, commonly leaving souls torn in shreds separated between many constructs. And the obvious, constructs being made of many different souls all shoved together into a mess of permanent anguish. Even worse if they are deemed not useful, they are thrown into the meat grinder, where their bodies are ground into raw flesh to be used for, you guessed it, more abominations, beginning the cycle of madness once again. The other destroyed house was the House of Eyes, Spies, and Soldiers of Shadows. These Maldraxians were tasked with typical espionage. Through sneaking and sabotage, they would find information needed to defend their realms, while also sabotaging any attempts that they could. Filled with Nerubian-like creatures, the house now lays in ruins, although some still remain of its members. Next is the House of the Chosen, the house you're recruited into at the start of your adventure. This house is filled with warriors, the main brute force of Maldraxes. The things here are trained in combat, and also build the armor and weapons needed to arm them, made of metal, bone, animal hide, and even the scraps of land boils, blisters, and warts, to make some of the best armor and rune blades the land can muster. With the realm's leader, the Primus, seemingly missing, it has left the Malgraves to their own ideals, and as time passes, and the anima runs dry, it leads many to lesser ways, like mentioned with the House of Constructs. But what of the final house that we'll speak of today? That is the House of Rituals. The House of Rituals, filled with the best of the best, spellcasters and alkalites, and of course, liches. I'm sure in saying the word lich has many of you in the idea that there should be some issues with this house, and how many horrors can befall the land. Sanctioned in a section turned white with a mix of spores and bone dust, they perform rituals of unspeakable power, of course needing ingredients some may call undignified, and so it is common to find animals and expired servants here, harvested for spell component cantrips. But the horrors of the House of Rituals is not the physical, but the metaphysical, with the insane magics they practice there, including necromancy, which in a realm like Maldraxes is quite powerful. The entire zone shows its disgusting and disturbing nature on its sleeve, filled to the brim with death, even to the point that it is common for the skies to be filled with the wailing souls in a soul storm, as what we would call normal weather does not exist in the Shadowlands. And for the bloodthirsty undead to host massive bloodbath gladiatorial matches composed of thousands of individuals fighting till only one house remains. One of these matches even acting as the entry to the zone itself, and another being the entire premise for one of the dungeons. An infinite army of undead charged with defending the realm have fallen, turned them into an even more horrifying version of the Scourge we see on Azeroth. For here, they are the very origin of undeath might, although there is some good within this land of blight and pus, as there are some unlikely allies, ranging from abominations, liches, skeletons, and bone wardens reminiscent of Lord Marogar. Massive spider-like bones curled around buildings of purple with trims of gold, and of course the necropolises, flying structures of dominance, ventured into a few destroyed and left in ruins by the destruction of the House of Eyes and Plague. Even the structures here are not free of the land's theme of undeath, Maldraxes seemingly having an Erubian-style building which was shared with the Warcraft Scourge. However, the World of Warcraft Scourge, or at least the Scourge of Icecrown, seemed to go more into the Maw's theme of architecture. Many zones in the past have touched one side of death, but no one zone has touched on such the gruesomeness of death and all of its outcomes as Maldraxes, from plagues and blights vaporizing entire civilizations, into walking amalgamations of bone and goo, to fields of spores infesting and enslaving their hosts, to still live corpses being dragged into piles and salvaged for parts to create constructs of flesh and soul, to the very liches commanding this all and treating all of this as nothing more than a common day of necromancy. Maldraxes hits the most gruesome outcomes of death and necromancy to its peaks, while also still somehow finding a way to fester and honor within its boils and blisters of carrion. Maldraxes is a celebration of all things spooky, and acts as an amazing zone to complement the most basic version of death we have to use, rotting flesh and decrepit bone. Even the Maw is a zone made to be the literal worst of the worst in the afterlife, but leaves itself far less disgusting, vile, and spooky than that of Maldraxes. And to finish off, what is Halloween? A holiday about fear and horror, but also with a bit of joy in there. Just a bit, which in a way makes the horror all the better. And that fits Maldraxes perfectly. The zone is filled with horror, rot, death, and gloom, but within it holds small moments of joy and happiness, some time away from the despair, only to dump you right back into it face first. And with that, this is the end of the video. If you liked the video, make sure you like the video and tell us what you liked about it. This video was written and edited by Felplague, link to their channel in the description. Shadowlands would have been released by now, but with the delay, we are left unknown of the actual release date. So until then, hope you have a happy Halloween and can't wait to see you Maldraxes, the Shadowlands.